The village of Ikaru was alive with the sounds of preparation. Bright fabrics fluttered in the breeze, and the aroma of stews and roasted yams filled the air. Drummers began a slow rhythm, a call to celebration that echoed across the hills. By the sacred river Odiri, the elders stood in a circle, murmuring blessings as they poured water onto the earth. "May the union bring strength to our people," Elder Kofi declared, his voice steady. Adisa, the chief's son, moved through the gathering crowd with effortless grace. "Adisa," a young boy called, "will you join the dance later?" "Only if you can keep up with me, Kweku," Adisa replied, laughing. His charisma drew admiration, a reminder of his role as the villagers' pride. In her grandmother's hut, Zuri adjusted her beaded necklace with trembling fingers. "Your heart is your greatest beauty," Mama Abina reminded her gently. "Carry it with pride." The drums quickened, and dancers filled the square. Songs rose in joyous harmony as the community celebrated the union of their beloved Adisa and Zuri. The joy was interrupted by the sudden hush that fell as a woman appeared at the edge of the gathering. Nya, draped in robes adorned with strange symbols, held a bundle in her hands. Her piercing gaze silenced even the drummers. "Who is she?" murmured one villager. "What does she want here?" Adisa's smile faltered, his posture stiffening. "She has no place here," he whispered to himself. Nia stepped forward. "I have come with a truth that must be spoken," she announced, her voice cutting through the murmurs. The villagers exchanged uneasy glances, their excitement turning into tension. "What truth could disrupt this sacred day?" demanded Elder Kofi. Nia raised the bundle slightly, her expression resolute. "It is a truth that concerns this family and this village. I will not leave until it is known." "Speak carefully, woman," Chief Olu barked, his voice tinged with warning. "Do not bring shame where there should be joy." "The shame is already here, Chief Olu," Nia replied. "It is yours to bear." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mama Abena's sharp gaze fixed on Nia. "Let her speak," she said calmly. "Truth is the river's way, flowing whether we will it or not." As Nia stepped forward, her presence carried a weight that silenced all whispers. She stood before the elders and declared, "This truth must be revealed before vows are exchanged." The celebration came to an abrupt halt as Nia stepped forward, her voice cutting through the rising drum beats. "This wedding cannot proceed," she declared. Her tone was steady, but it carried a weight that stilled the joyous gathering. Eyes turned toward her, some filled with curiosity, others with growing unease. "What is the meaning of this interruption?" Elder Kofi demanded, his voice firm. Nia took another step forward, her piercing gaze meeting the elders. "I carry a truth that must be spoken today, one that will change what you see before you." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Murmurs of confusion spread like wildfire as the villagers turned to one another. "Who is she?" a woman whispered. "What does she mean?" "Elder Kofi," a man from the crowd called. "This is sacred ground. Should she not be silenced?" The elder raised his hand, silencing the murmurs. "Speak carefully, stranger. Truth carries weight, and lies carry consequences." Adisa, standing near the altar, clenched his jaw. "This is nothing but nonsense," he spat, though his voice faltered slightly. She seeks only to disrupt what should be a joyous day. But Nia was undeterred. "Do I?" she asked, her tone sharp. "Then let the elders judge if what I bring is a lie." Adisa's fingers tightened around the ceremonial staff he held. His eyes darted nervously to his father, Chief Olu, who stood rigid and silent. The elders huddled briefly, their voices low but deliberate. Finally, Elder Kofi turned back to the gathering. "It is not our way to ignore the voice of one who speaks with conviction. We will hear her, but be warned, woman. Truth here is sacred." Nia stepped closer, her hand steady as she unwrapped the bundle she carried. The cloth fell away to reveal a carved wooden artifact, its intricate patterns unmistakable. A collective gasp filled the air. "This," Nia said, holding the heirloom aloft, "belonged to Adisa's mother. It was passed down through our family, from mother to child, as a mark of lineage and honor." Chief Olu's face darkened. "Enough," he bellowed. "You have no right to speak of my family." "I have every right," Nia countered, her voice unwavering. "For I am part of it. I am your daughter's child, the child you cast aside when you chose wealth over honor." As the child plunged deeper, farther away from the shadows, the child started to tremble. The silence that followed was deafening. Adisa's face went pale as the weight of her words settled over the crowd. Zuri, standing by his side, turned to him, her voice trembling. "Adisa, is this true?" Adisa opened his mouth to speak, but faltered. His silence was answer enough. A woman in the crowd whispered, "The resemblance. Look at her face. She does look like Adisa's mother." Elder Kofi stepped forward, his expression grave. "The river knows no lies, Adisa. Speak the truth now, or the shame will grow heavier with every passing moment." Adisa lowered his head, his voice barely above a whisper. "I knew," he admitted. "I knew she existed, but I chose to say nothing." Zuri's hands trembled as she clutched her necklace. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. "Beware of foundations built on untruths. They crumble faster than sand." Another elder, Mama Afua, raised her voice. "Injustice buried in the ground will sprout one day, as surely as the baobab reaches for the sky." Nia's voice broke through the tension. "You speak of injustice. Then hear mine. My mother trusted you, Chief Olu. She gave her love and loyalty, but you repaid her with betrayal. You left us with nothing, while you built your legacy on lies. When you built your legacy on lies, you created a never-ending cycle." The crowd erupted in murmurs, their earlier joy replaced by outrage. "This cannot stand," a voice shouted. Elder Kofi raised his hand once more, quieting the crowd. "Truth has been spoken, and now justice must follow. Chief Olu, what say you to these claims?" The chief's shoulders sagged as he looked away, his silence condemning. "This is not just a matter for one family," Nia said. "This is a matter for the village. If leaders cannot be held accountable, then what hope is there for the people?" The villagers began to nod in agreement, their anger shifting to determination. "Justice must be served," a woman called out. "The elders must act." The elders must act. The drummers, once jubilant, sat in silence, their hands still. The air was heavy with the weight of what had been revealed, and the joyous rhythm of the wedding was replaced by a solemn call for truth and accountability. The air grew heavy as Nia stepped forward, her hands raising the carved wooden heirloom for all to see. The intricate designs gleamed in the sunlight, unmistakably belonging to Adisa's late mother. Gasps echoed across the crowd. "This," Nia said, her voice steady and loud, "is the proof you seek. This artifact, sacred to your family, was given to my mother by your father." Elder Kofi leaned closer, his sharp eyes inspecting the object. "Indeed, this belongs to the lineage of Chief Olu's house. Where did you come by it?" Nia's gaze never wavered. "It was my mother's, given to her when she was promised a life of honor, only to be cast aside when that promise was broken." The crowd murmured, their whispers building into a chorus of unease. Chief Olu, visibly shaken, stepped forward. "These are lies. That heirloom was stolen." Nia shook her head. "No, Chief Olu, it was not stolen. It was left with my mother when you turned your back on her and on me, your daughter." A deafening silence followed her words. The villagers stared at Chief Olu, his normally commanding presence diminished. Adisa's face paled, his eyes fixed on the ground. Zuri turned to him, her voice trembling. "Adisa, is this true? Did you know?" Adisa remained silent, his body tense. Nia's voice broke the quiet. "He knew. He has always known. He chose silence, just as his father did, to protect his position." Elder Kofi, his tone stern, addressed Adisa. "Speak, son of Olu. Is there truth to her claim?" Adisa's voice was barely a whisper. "I knew," he admitted. "I did not know her face, but I knew she existed. I was afraid of what would happen if the truth came to light." Zuri's voice rose, her pain clear in every word. "You knew? You let me stand beside you, believing in a future built on lies?" The crowd's murmurs turned into cries of anger and betrayal. "How could this happen? The chief has shamed us all." Chief Olu raised his hand in a futile attempt to regain control. "Enough! These accusations mean nothing without proof, beyond a trinket." Nia stepped closer, her voice steady despite the rising tension. "Proof? Look at me. Do I not carry the face of your late wife? Do these carvings not speak the truth of your actions?" The elders conferred in hushed voices before Elder Kofi turned to the chief. "This truth cannot be denied. The resemblance, the artifact, it is clear. You have broken the trust of this village, Chief Olu." The chief's shoulders sagged, his denial falling silent. The weight of his actions now hung over him like a storm cloud. Zuri, her face streaked with tears, stepped toward Adisa. "You had every chance to tell me, to let me decide if I could forgive this, but you chose to deceive me." Adisa reached out to her, his voice pleading. "Zuri, please, I never wanted this to hurt you." "Hurt me?" she replied, her voice rising. "This is not just about me. It is about the lies that have tainted everything." Mama Abena, Zuri's grandmother, stepped forward, her voice firm and wise. "Child, you have been given the truth, painful as it is. What you choose to do now will shape your path." Zuri straightened, her tears drying as resolve replaced her sorrow. She turned to the crowd. "This union cannot proceed. I cannot build a life on dishonesty and betrayal." The villagers murmured in agreement, their anger now mingled with respect for Zuri's strength. Nia, standing tall despite the years of shame and rejection she had faced, looked at the elders. "I have spoken my truth. What happens now rests in your hands." Elder Kofi nodded solemnly. "The chief must answer for his actions. Justice will be served." The drummers, who at once celebrated a joyous union, sat in silence, their hands resting on their instruments. One by one, the villagers began to disperse, their faces marked with disappointment and reflection. The ceremony was over, but its lessons would echo in the hearts of the village for years to come. Truth had prevailed, as it always did in the end. The elders gathered beneath the sacred baobab tree, its ancient roots anchoring the village's history. Elder Kofi spoke first, his voice heavy with the weight of the moment. "Truth has been revealed, and justice must follow. A leader's strength lies not in his wealth, but in his integrity. Chief Olu, you have failed this sacred trust." The chief, once proud and untouchable, stood silent, his head bowed. The other elders murmured in agreement. Elder Mama Efua raised her hand. "It is not enough to acknowledge wrong. Amends must be made. Nia and her family have suffered for too long." The crowd murmured, their anger tempered by the wisdom of the elders. "What must be done?" someone asked. Elder Kofi turned to the chief. "You will return what was taken. A portion of your wealth, symbolic of your misdeeds, will be given to Nia and her family. It will not erase the past, but it is the first step toward restitution." Nia stepped forward, her voice steady despite the emotions coursing through her. "We did not ask for riches. We asked for dignity and truth. But if this is what is decided, I will accept it as a sign that justice, though delayed, has not been denied." Adisa stood apart, his face a mask of guilt. The elders turned to him. "Adisa," Mama Afua said, her voice firm yet not unkind, "you too carry the burden of this lie. How will you redeem yourself?" He swallowed hard, his voice trembling. "I will serve the village. I will work to rebuild what my silence has destroyed. I ask only for a chance to prove that I can change." The crowd murmured, some forgiving, others skeptical. Elder Kofi nodded. "Your path will be long and difficult, Adisa, but redemption is earned, not given." Zuri stood quietly by her grandmother, her heart heavy but resolute. Mama Abina placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Child, the pain you feel now will one day become your strength. Do not let it define you, but let it shape you into someone even stronger." End of chapter 11. Zuri lifted her head, her tears drying. "I will not let this break me, grandmother. I will honor myself and the values you have taught me." She turned to the crowd. "I will not let betrayal dictate my life. I will forge my own path, not as Adisa's bride, but as Zuri, the woman my grandmother raised me to be." A ripple of approval spread through the villagers. Nia watched Zuri with quiet admiration. "You are stronger than you know," Nia said softly. "I see the same resilience in you that carried my mother through her hardest days." As the crowd dispersed, whispers of Nia's bravery spread. She, who had once been shunned, now stood as a beacon of justice. Her story became a symbol of resilience, inspiring those who had faced their own struggles in silence. Through Nia's newfound status, her family began to rebuild. Villagers who had once turned their backs on them now offered support. For the first time in years, Nia's family felt the warmth of community again. The village gathered days later to reflect. Elder Kofi spoke before the crowd. Let this tale remind us all. Betrayal may hide in the shadows, but truth will always find the light. Justice and unity are the pillars that hold this village together. Mama Efwa added, may we never forget that redemption is possible, but only through courage and accountability. The story would be told for generations, woven into the fabric of Ikaru's history, a reminder of the power of truth and the strength of those who dared to confront it.